is incredible how much noise and energy is brought by the fans, where there's cheerleaders, and almost always the cheerleaders are the biggest attraction, more than the players, more than the team themselves. But the cheerleaders are chanting and dancing, and the fans are following with, and so it gets really loud, and you see it. I mean, it's around the entire stadium where it's just nonstop noise, chant, dance, chant, dance.
Welcome back in, everybody, to another episode of To the Show We Go Baseball Podcast. Today's episode, we got a little different. I feel like I've been saying we got another Red Sox prospect, Red Sox pitching prospect. Well, we actually have a former Red Sox pitching prospect on the show. We have Rio Gomez, who, if you don't, you probably know the name, but if you don't, Rio was a longtime Red Sox farmhand in the system. Actually pitched in Worcester in 2023. And then in 2024, he signed with the Wei Chuan Dragons in Taipei. Now, Rio, we got a lot of questions about your latest just playing time, but I know you're back in Arizona, so I wanted to see how the offseason's treating you so far.
Yeah, guys, great to be on again. I got back to Arizona about 3 weeks ago, back to the United States about 3 weeks ago, and first week there's a little adjustment in terms of sleeping and the time zones, but after that it's been nice to be back, just be back in the States, be adjusted again, and slowly settling all my stuff back in and back to training, back to hit the ground running for the next year, and at the same time just enjoying the weather out here in Arizona. So it's been great.
I'm just looking at your numbers right now, and you had a really good season. I'm just seeing this 92.1 innings, 1.17 ERA, 94 strikeouts, just 14 walks. You gave up 2 homers for the whole season, just 58 hits. Like that's a really 0.78 whip. Like it's a really good season. What is the competition like there, and how did you adjust to it?
Right. Yeah. The competition is definitely different than what you see at like the big league AAA type level, mostly because what they trade off for in power, they have bat to ball skills. And it almost the style of game is so much different than what the US style or the North American style of game has become. And it almost feels like I stepped into a time machine and went back 25 years into the game, where they think about situations, they bunt, they hit and run, they steal, they try to hit the ball the other way. There's 2-strike approaches. So it definitely becomes more of a game of cat and mouse and trying to outthink the hitter. That was so different than what it was here in the States, where I might face some guy and he's going to give me the exact same swing, 3 swings in a row, 3 pitches in a row, 3 at-bats in a row, where there is no adjustment depending on situation or what's going on in the game. So it was pretty quick for me to realize, like, oh, this is the style of game is different and how to adjust. And a lot of it was, for me, I just felt like, how do I keep them off their toes as much as possible about thinking what pitch I'm throwing, because their bat to ball skills are so good that you have to really have them off to get a swing and miss or get a strike.
So is that different from how you approached, how you would approach hitters, like in AAA?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like in AAA, like I could throw 3 straight sliders in a row, and I would get the same swing all 3 times in a row, and I could get a swing and miss strikeout. And over there, you definitely can't do that because they make these adjustments. They don't want to strike out, so they're able to expand the strike zone with like their swing ability. They know the zone just as well, and the zone's obviously the same no matter where you go. The umpires are the same, but they know the zone and they know how to get the bat outside of the zone to be able to foul a pitch off to keep the at bat alive. So you had to start outthinking the hitters, where slider's always been kind of my go-to strikeout pitch, and sometimes you have to change it up. Maybe throw a fastball, maybe throw a changeup. A lot of left-on-left change-ups, just things to just keep them off balanced in that sense, where there was an adjustment from the game here to the game there, and I think that's also why other foreign pitchers who have come to Taiwan, who have had great success over here in the U.S., will struggle mightily over there.
And what was your role? Were you like a swingman? Like what was your general role in the pitching staff there?
I would basically say I was almost the entire middle relief. So there's 120 games played over there, and I pitched in 63 of them.
Wow!
And
wow!
They play 5 games a week over there, and so it's like a midweek. It's almost college style, where it's like a midweek 2-game series and then a weekend 3-game series. So with that being said, it was like, I could pitch Tuesday an inning or an inning plus maybe 2 innings. And then Wednesday I could pitch another inning. Then we have a day off on Thursday, so I could rest. And then Friday I'd be good again if I need be. And if I didn't pitch, I could pitch Saturday. So it almost felt like I was pitching, depending on how things broke down, 3 to 4 times a week. And it wasn't an issue like body or fatigue or arm wise, just because of like the built-in off days. So almost all the foreigners that get signed over there are signed to be starting pitchers, and I was built up to be a starting pitcher. And then I think they saw something that they realized they wanted me more in the bullpen, and the bullpen struggled. So they thought I could help bridge to get to the closer. And that's kind of the role that I became in. So I was really the middle relief setup guy. So holds became like my target of what I was shooting for, obviously, every game. Instead of like a win or a save, like for me, I was like, all right, let me get the hold.
Now, I remember it was probably about a year ago we had you on. It was after the 2024 season, and you had become, or 2023 season, and you'd become a starter. You had been a reliever for most of your Red Sox career. You were starting. It was a pretty solid season, but you were going to be a free agent for the first time, and we weren't sure like where you were going to be. How did you end up signing over there, and what was the conversation like?
Yeah, I really like, if this was a year ago from right now, I would have never told you that I was going to Taiwan or Asia or CPBL. But then as free agency went on and the off season went on, I realized how hard it is to get a job back in the States as a free agent. I was 29. I hadn't been to the show yet. There's a lot of things against you at that point. Left-hander who only throws about 90. And obviously not impossible. You find there's plenty of those guys in the show. Bernardino, Danny Young for the Mets. Like there's plenty of those guys who have that role. But so that being said, right after the season ended, I got followed on Instagram by one of the scouts over there for a different team. And at first I didn't think much of it. I followed him back just because I was like, you know what, like, doesn't hurt. Like, let's just see what happens. We kind of talked casually. I didn't want to talk too intensely about anything. And then after the new year, I started to realize like, oh, I need to get a job. And I don't know if anything's going to happen over here stateside. So I started talking to him more frequently and more just about, jobs and stuff. And he told me that their team had already signed 3 of their 4 foreigners. They only had 1 spot left, and they didn't think they had the budget to sign me. But he said, I'll refer you to a friend. And that friend ended up being a Taiwanese agent out there. And within a week, I had 2 different contract offers. And then I ended up signing with the Wei Chuan Dragons.
What are the Wei Chuan Dragons all about? Like, what's their vibe? Like, what are their fans like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen what like Korean or NPB or any of these baseball is out there, but I had no idea what to expect. I didn't do any research or any homework, but and
job's a job, right?
And I quickly realized like, oh, CPBL isn't the only way, but it is incredible how much noise and energy is brought by the fans, where there's cheerleaders, and almost always the cheerleaders are the biggest attraction, more than the players, more than the team themselves. But the cheerleaders are chanting and dancing, and the fans are following with, and so it gets really loud, and you see it. I mean, it's around the entire stadium where it's just nonstop noise, chant, dance, and I mean, these fans are burning hundreds of calories a game within 3 hours, and they don't stop, and they love it. They find it so much fun, and it's just a different kind of energy than I was ever expecting, because you would never find that over here in the States. And it was it definitely made it much more enjoyable and much more fun of a game.
Did you get to interact with them at all? I'm sure that there was a bit of a language gap there, but were you able to like
You know
interact with
what?
the fans?
I thought there was going to be a bigger language barrier heading into it, and I downloaded Duolingo. I started learning Chinese, and quickly realized I don't need any of this because there's so much English over there. English is their second language, and like it's taught in school the way. Okay, at least down here in Arizona, Spanish is taught in school. I don't know what's taught up in New England, but like the secondary language is always taught Spanish. But if you don't really know Spanish, you're not really going to learn Spanish that way. But they actually learn English and they know English and they're willing to work with you. And luckily, I was in Taipei, which is the capital of Taiwan. So same thing, is much more westernized, much more English. So I never had a real issue with the language barrier within the fans, teammates, anybody. We had translators, but it really never felt like I needed it.
Who were the other foreign players on the team with you? Because I know you were saying it's a 4-player limit, right?
Right. It's a 4-player limit per team. So on our team there was 3 other guys. One was named Tyler Epler. He had made it to AAA with the Pirates. Then he was in Japan, Korea, now CPBL. Another one was Drew Gagno. And he had made it to the show with the Mets and the Brewers. Played in Korea, now he's with us. And then another one was Brian Woodall, who has now played 10 years over there in Taiwan. He made it to AAA with the Diamondbacks a long time ago and has been in Taiwan for the last 10 years.
Wow, 10 years there.
Yeah, it's a lot. I know. After 1 year, I was like, wow, it takes a special kind of person to be able to do 10 years over there. But it can definitely be worth it. Obviously, you're far away from home, but the financial side is what brings guys to head over to Asia overseas.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way that you're talking about it sounds like you can kind of bounce around between like Japan, Korea, and Taipei. It sounds like there's like a little taste of each of those for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, you find yourself like the other foreigners on the other teams have also like had little stints in Korea maybe or Japan or and sometimes they bounce back and forth from the States. Like they come back to the States after being in the CPBL or being in Korea. And so, yeah, I mean, there's plenty, like majority of the big leaguers or foreign guys over there had big league experience, big league time. And then there's a few Taiwanese players who had made it to the big leagues who are now playing back in Taiwan in the CPBL. But then there's also on every team, plenty of Taiwanese players who had made it through the minor league system, played in the minor league system here in the States, and then had gone back. And I think that also helped with the English aspect, is that so many of these guys had played AA, AAA, some sort of minor league affiliation over here, made it to a certain level, and then have gone back and they learned English while their time was over there. So like Yu Chang.
Yeah, I was gonna say is Yu Chang, because you guys were teammates last year. Like,
Yes.
Did you get to see him at all?
Yeah, and that was really cool because me and you were locker mates in Worcester, so we were right next to each other. And halfway through the year, he came back to the Taiwan, and for him it was a big homecoming. He was really excited, and he was so they have a draft over there, and the draft is in June. And if you get drafted, you can immediately start playing. Obviously, if you're like good enough, or you're a player coming home. And so he went 1-1. He went his first overall pick. It was cool to see him because he brings a little bit more of that American style swing and that power where you got to watch out for him in a different way where, yeah, he has swing and miss, but he has more power than some of these other guys. So you can pitch him like you were over here, but then, the next guy is a different, more local player, and you got to go back to pitching him like a Taiwanese player would. And you actually, my last outing of the season, hit a home run. One of my 2 home runs hit a 3-run bomb off me, and he ruined my sub-1 ERA.
At least like, okay, this guy was a big leaguer. At least,
yeah,
he wasn't just like some random guy.
No, he wasn't some random guy, and at least up to then, I think he was 0 for 3 with 2 Ks off me, and then he got me on the last one, and so. But it was cool because we talked to each other before and after the games, and like we had that relationship pre-built, and it was like, oh, we were talking on our turf over here, and now we're talking back on his turf back in Taiwan.
That's really cool.
I got a story for you. So I was hanging out in the Worcester clubhouse at some point this season, and I was next to our good friend Chase Sugar's locker.
Yeah.
And Suge was, I don't know if he was looking at something that I think he may have been watching one of your games. I don't know what he was doing, but he was either texting you, looking up some like the last outing you pitched. He was definitely keeping track. And I'm just like, oh, what are you looking up? What are you watching? He's like, oh, Rio pitched in an all-star game or something that you had done. I forgot what he was saying. He's kind of going on and on. And I thought it was so cool that like a guy like Suge, obviously it seems like you guys were still pretty, kept in touch, but was it hard for you at all? Obviously with the time change and everything to kind of like keep up with, all the guys back home. And how did that go once you went overseas?
Yeah. Like some of the guys that I was closer friends with, like Suge or like Zach Kelly, Durbin Feltman, like those kinds of guys, like I'd still talk to them. Brendan Nail, we'd still talk, like keep up. Obviously the time zone's tough. There's only so many hours of the day where we're both awake because it's 12 hours exactly from you guys, from the East Coast side. So, at night they're just waking up, vice versa. In the morning, they're still up at night. So we would be able to talk, and I was always checking in. I wanted to see, so like I still have the MLB app. I'm still checking the Worcester scores and the MLB scores, just to see how my guys are doing. The guys that are still with the Red Sox, obviously, over the years, just the natural course of turnover and change take place. But I still have plenty of guys on the Worcester team that are worth checking into, seeing how their years are going. And then so like when a guy like Suge makes his debut, like obviously I'm there, I'm ready to text him and just fired up to see that happen.
Yeah, that was so cool just because he didn't just make his debut. Like I remember he got called up and I was like, oh, well, he's getting a generic appearance and then they're going to DFA. No, he kicked ass. I think that he's going to at the very least be back next year there, which I don't know if anybody was expecting that, but he figured something out.
I think there's definitely a chance that like he could have been DFA'd, but I think his biggest like positive, like what he really brings to the table is that he just has this bulldog mentality. And like, I mean, you saw it in Worcester. He would get beat down so many times, so many outings, but then the very next time he steps up on that mound, short-term memory blank race, like he's ready to go. And like, he's just one of those where it's like get pushed down 9 times. Well, he's getting up that 10th time no matter what. And I think that is what they really wanted to see transfer to the MLB side. And obviously it did, where he's not letting any of those big league hitters beat him either.
And I know I'm not sure how close you and Jamie Westbrook are. You guys are both Arizona guys, right?
Yeah. We grew up with each other.
Okay. Obviously he was one of the best stories of this past season as well. How cool is that to see him also make his debut this past year?
That was actually probably the most exciting debut for me this year, just because, I mean, we went to different high schools, but we grew up playing against each other all these years. So I've always known Jamie since we were about 12 years old. We started working out at the same facility in the off season together with Dahlbeck and Tarek Skubal, all these other guys. So I've known Jamie's story and, all these years of AAA, never getting his chance, deservingly should be getting his chance, but never getting it. And then he finally got the call with the Red Sox. And that was just really cool to see that, he had about 10 years of minor league purgatory and finally broke through.
The thing that I didn't realize about Jamie, and we had him on, but I didn't realize it until seeing him in the locker room. He's funny. He's like a really funny dude. I'd be like talking to Hunter Dobbins when he came up, but when he came up from AA, and I was like trying to have a conversation with him, and I just kept getting distracted.
No, he's one big goofball, and he's just a good guy to be around. And I think, obviously you have to have the numbers to keep coming back year after year, but he's always had that locker room presence that makes teams want to keep him around.
Yeah, I thought the coolest thing about him this past year, I know it's a small note, but he had them change his hometown to Massachusetts while he was in Worcester. I thought that was kind of cool. But I think they had it listed as Arizona at the beginning.
Well, he was born in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But I want to say he moved out here probably around like 10 years old or so. And so he's he can claim both, but
that's fair.
He's a Red Sox, so he was born here now.
There you go.
That's fine. That's fine here.
All right. Something you mentioned earlier, I wanted to loop back on it because I was taking a peek at it after you said it, that you pitched in a ton of games this year. So I'm not sure how accurate this is, but it says Baseball Reference says you threw 92 in a third innings. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, no, that's accurate.
Okay, so then I was looking back and I'm just like, okay, in 2023, but like between Portland and Worcester, you threw 76 in a third. Then in 2022, you threw 33 in Portland. So you almost threw more innings this year than you did the previous 2 seasons combined. Are you a little tired right now? Like, how are you feeling after a long season?
Not anymore. But that month of September was very hard and very draining. You definitely felt every day waking up where I was like, wow, I am so tired. But it was a challenge that I enjoyed doing. It was, personal best in amount of innings pitched in a year, where the year before was also a personal best that I just, topped once again in a different manner, where you think 92 innings, you're probably thinking more as a starter than as a reliever. And obviously that was part of the challenge, was like, you got to get yourself up and ready to go every single game, because you don't know how the situation is going to play out. But I really enjoyed the challenge. At the time of September, when I was exhausted, I was ready for it to be over, but I thought it was something that was really good for my career, to just be able to look back and be like, yeah, I can do that. I can do it again next year. I can keep doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really, really interesting career that you've had. I mean, I just think about how you didn't even make your high school team, right? Like, you were a walk-on in college.
Yeah, I walked on to my junior college, and then I walked on to University of Arizona as well right after that. So
it's like, what's next for you after having such a good season? Like, what are you looking to do for 2025?
I'm kind of open to seeing what's going to happen. I've had some interest gathered here in Japan, which would be very cool. I'm hoping maybe something comes out with that. Maybe I come back to the States. Maybe I go back to Taiwan. I'm kind of open-minded and just willing to see what goes on. Last offseason, I gave myself so much anxiety and stress about getting signed. So now that I know the process a little bit better, that last year was my first free agency, where I'm not going to worry about it until well after the new year, and just see where everything unfolds.
I mean, you definitely, it's definitely a high note. So that's interesting to hear, with just like Japan potentially, and what's going to be there.
Cool. So we'll see how it all plays out. And I guess the biggest thing I just got to lean on to is the universe has never let me down. So why is it going to let me down now?
That's a really good way of looking at it, as far as just keeping yourself motivated goes.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing. Half of the time, it's just you get the reps and you're in the right place and you're there and you keep going. And those are the guys that end up making it eventually, just because just persistence.
Yeah.
Just a long ass way.
Attitude. So just keep going, and we'll see how it all lays out.
How did playing there compare to your CBL experience? Just with like the international competition and everything.
Playing in Taiwan?
Yeah.
Compared to...
So when you were doing... Did I say CBL? I meant WBC. Sorry.
The energy was similar. When we played in the WBC, and like we played against like the teams like Mexico, because our pool was here in Phoenix, so playing against the teams like Mexico and the US, that drew huge crowds, and rightfully so, location based. So that got me a little more prepped for what the noise and the energy would feel like. When we played in Taiwan, they have it's like a neutral site, but it's the Taipei Dome, and it holds 40,000 people, and those would sell out. And
oh wow.
Dome, and it's closed off, there's no air going outwards. That noise is even louder, where we have pitch calm, but it's turned up all the way to the max, and you're covering it with your glove and you still can't hear. And it's easy, it can be easy to lose focus and get distracted by all this outside noise, that you got to really lock in and focus at what's at hand right now.
That's cool.
I had a couple questions regarding off the field things in Taipei, because I am actually curious about it myself. What did you do in your off time in Taipei?
I explored so much. I told myself before coming there that I'd never been to Asia before. I'd never been to Taiwan. And for all I know, this could be maybe my only time ever going to Asia or Taiwan, but also this could be my last year ever playing baseball. And I didn't want to put that stress of baseball to overhang my whole time while I was there. So I told myself, I want to play tourist. I want to explore. I want to see everything as if I'm here on a vacation and take advantage of that. And that really helped take my mind off of everything baseball related, where instead of just consuming my every single day, every moment on baseball, it was like, no, there's something new to go see. There's a new town to go explore. There's a new temple to go see, there's just so many things to go see and do. And that was really nice about the so many off days a week, where we'd have practice, but like Monday was guaranteed off day, and then we'd practice one of those other days of the week. But it was just nice that, like, to take advantage of, felt like I was there like a year-long tourist almost. And that was
I feel like that's got to be like the best way to do it, because it's like you're always constantly seeing things. And actually, that was kind of like, I know it's like a way less example mine is, but when I moved to New England from St. Louis a few years back, and it was one of those things where, like, me and my fiance wife now, but we every single weekend we're like, let's go explore this town, let's go do this, and let's go do that. And it helped me, like, kind of be like, get over like a little bit of the homesickness, a little bit of the I don't know what I'm doing here. And it's like, okay, it helps so much. Like, it's incredible. But
it does. My girlfriend came and lived with me in Taiwan, which was really cool, and that also helped me be motivated to go see and do things outside of baseball and to take advantage. And whether it was within the city or leaving the city and going elsewhere within the country, I definitely feel like we saw and did everything that we possibly could imagine with all that time.
What was the greatest culture shock for you? Or not even culture shock, just like the biggest cultural difference between what you were used to and what you did there?
Probably how clean and how safe the entire country was, where you never once felt like a little uneasy or, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here, or any of these things, whether it was like day or night. You could be walking around and you never felt like anything was out of place or nervous. And they have like this running joke out there where, like, you could leave your cell phone on the ground and 1 week, 2 weeks later, your cell phone would still be lying right there in the same spot. And it's very true. I mean, we never saw a chain on a bike. We saw people's scooters and mopeds still running, and they're just parked on the side of the road. I mean, there was nothing bad ever happened in that country, and it was pretty unbelievable to see. And I think that was probably the biggest culture shock, that I was like, whoa, this can happen in real life.
Yeah. Well, how was the food there?
The Taiwanese food, so like the local cuisine, personally, it was hit or miss. Some of it was tremendous. Some of it was really good. Some of it was like, I don't know if that's for me. But thankfully, like, being in Taipei, we're in the capital, there was so much. It's like a top 20, top 15 city of the world in terms of size, and it's so modern, and so there's so much options in terms of food, and the restaurants were incredible. And like, somebody explained it to me within like a couple of weeks. I was like, all the food here is going to be really good, because there's so much competition that if it's not good, they'll go out of business and something else will be right there. So if you want to stay in business, you have to be really good. And so, I mean, outside of Thailand, the best Thai food you'd ever have. Outside of Japan, the best Japanese food you'd ever have. Outside of Korea, the best Korean food. And there's so many foreigners that, like, you're finding French restaurants and British spots and German spots. So you get an American. So like, you get a good mix of everything, where you never felt like, oh, I'm stuck eating the same food every day.
Is there anything that you had there that you're just like, you're still dreaming about it now?
Yeah. There's a couple spots out there, but some of the ramen that I had out there was easily the best ramen I've ever had. But even like in terms of like the Thai food, like the curry, it's just the ingredients. There's something about it, but it's the best curry you'll ever have. I don't know if it's the coconut or what they use that's different, but it's incredible. And there's a restaurant out there called Din Tai Fung, and it's actually like a semi chain around the world. I think there's like 15 spots around the world, but the original is in Taiwan. And we went to the original, and it's the first time I've ever gone to one. And it's like the steamed buns, like the
Oh
it's called,
yeah, yeah.
called chalambeau, and it comes in like those wooden bamboo, those circular like steam boxes when they serve it to you, and those are just incredible and to die for. And like those were like wow, and like it's a Michelin star restaurant, but it is so casual and like mixed in where like you didn't even, and the food is so good everywhere else that you don't even feel like, oh, that's a Michelin. Like that's all the way up here and everything else is down here. Like it's just, but that's like one of those where like, man, I do miss those.
I got a two-parter for you. I do love asking food questions, so half of it's going to be about food, but I'm going to reverse it now. What did you miss the most about America being over there? And I guess, and also half of it is like, what food did you miss the most having?
Well, I'm a little biased, but In-N-Out is always going to be my go-to. Where even when I was playing with the Red Sox on the East Coast, I always couldn't wait to come back to get an In-N-Out burger. So they had cheeseburgers out there, but like I don't think anything compares to an In-N-Out burger for me personally. I miss that. That's like, I guess it's more of like the semi-fast food type that like I miss, like a Chipotle or like an In-N-Out. Probably like that category of food is what I miss. Other than that, I thought you could get everything that you need over there.
Okay. What about like non-food related though? Like was there anything that you missed about like the States, whether it be like
Thank you.
TV, like anything like?
Yeah. Hearing English was a bit of a culture shock when I was back in the airport when I landed at LAX. It almost felt like always like when you heard English in Taiwan, somebody was talking directly to you. So there was a few times when I first got into LAX where like people would be on the phone speaking in English, and like I'd almost like turn around because I thought they were talking to me, and I was like, oh no, now I just look like dropping over here. Or like two people are talking amongst themselves, but I'm hearing English. So then I turn and look, and I'm like, again, they're not talking to you. But the thing, like in Taiwan, like they speak English, but when you hear English, it's usually going to be referred to you, to the foreigner. Like they know, they're not speaking English amongst themselves. So that was kind of nice, was just like hearing just like background noise of English was a weird thing that was like, oh, that's a little nice to have back. Small detail that like always bothered me, but the restaurants there, the 99% of them don't do napkins. They do like tissues.
Huh.
So like their napkins were like tissue based, and it was just like I miss like a real thicker paper napkin.
It's an interesting one. I would have never.
I wouldn't have thought of.
But you'd once in a while see it's like one of those like it keeps you. You're like, oh, this restaurant has real napkins. Like you remember that one.
Wow. All right. Yeah. I would have never even like you never even really think about that when you're eating like here, like because it's just like a known thing. There's usually like a napkin dispenser or something, always on the table.
And they have napkin dispensers, but it's like tissue paper.
Wow.
So think about like
there's tissue napkins.
Yeah, you're wiping your hands or cleaning your face with Kleenex.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
That's what they do.
All right. Ed, I got one more question left. I don't know if you have anything to empty the tank.
Do I have anything to empty the tank?
You always do.
Yeah, actually, there is one that. So Bobby Dalbec is finally free from the Red Sox, and I know you guys are like you went to school together. You played in the same organization for a while.
Yeah.
What do you think Bobby is gonna end up? Do you think he's gonna stay stateside? He does seem like he has the kind of skill set that like Japan, like they want power hitters there. What do you think is next for Bobby Dalbec?
I've talked to him about it since I've seen him now since being back, but I think he wants to stay stateside to start, and I don't blame him. I think he would absolutely thrive in Japan or Korea, and you get paid pretty well in both of those leagues where it's not a financial aspect, but I think it's just making the jump to go overseas. It's so far away. You're far from home, time zones, culture. Not everybody is willing or wants to do that, but I think, like you said, Bob's skill set and power would absolutely thrive in both of those leagues. But he wants to stay stateside, and I feel very confident he's going to find himself a deal out here stateside and be able to. He'll get another crack into the big leagues, no doubt. I mean, he'll get another chance, and I really do believe that a fresh start is one thing that he's been needing for a long time, and I think it could help him out greatly.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that I learned about him this year, because I think this was my third year going into the clubhouse, and in that time I had never talked to him. And it's funny because I think I just found him kind of he's a big guy. He's kind of imposing. Yeah. So finally getting to talk to him, I didn't realize another guy that's really funny, just a really nice conversational guy. I wasn't expecting him to be as good natured, I guess.
I think there's a lot more to Bob that meets the eye.
Yeah.
Got a lot more going on, complexities, things that he likes, things that he cares about, that you don't always see, first impression of Bob, because I think sometimes he gives off that impression that he's just another big jock, and there's just so much more under there. I mean, that guy, you ever see him again, I mean, you should ask him about music, guitar playing. I mean, that's where his real interests and hobby are. It's not even on the field. It's music, YouTube, and learning guitar, and he loves it.
He was following all the guys out internationally that he used to play with, because we talked a little bit about how you were doing, and then Kyle Hart, who had a really good year in Korea this year. I didn't even know that until Bobby told me.
Yeah, Hart had an awesome year, and it was really cool that we were in similar time zones, so we could keep up with each other. And I think it seems like Hart is on his way to winning the Cy Young Award of Korea this year. So he had
he was ranked the 48th best free agent by, I think, Fangraphs, and they're predicting him to get a 3-year deal somewhere, which I good for him, right?
I don't see that. I mean, we'll see what happens. I could see him definitely going back to Korea for another year and giving that a run. But I think he's put himself in a good position that I think he'll have a nice choice. He'll have options.
Well, I think you going back to Bobby, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I still has hit the farthest home run I will ever see in person when he hit the duck boat out in left center in Worcester. I don't even know how far they said that went, but that is literally the farthest ball I'll ever see hit in my entire life. I don't think
he hit the train. He hit the train too.
That is right. I forgot about that. He hit the moving train.
I think for me, the farthest ball. Yes, him and Yaces are the only ones that ever hit the train.
Yep. There's a guy. He went to Japan, right? Yes.
He went to Japan. I think he's still out there. I'm not sure, but I know he went to Japan afterwards. And but for me, the farthest ball I've ever seen Bob hit was in college, and obviously it's a metal bat, so it's a little skewed, but it went right center, so a little up with power. And I think if you were to ask anybody who was in that ASU team or that U of A team when that game happened, they will all tell you that was the farthest ball they've ever seen hit in their life. It was just something different, and it was wow. It was one of those you just don't forget where you were and what was happening when you saw that.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost how I feel about that day in Worcester. I can't even imagine that one in Arizona, but I'm okay ending. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right. I was going to say, I don't mind ending this podcast on this question. It's not a baseball question. It's not a Bobby Dahlbeck question. It's not anything like that. But I'm in the market for a new show or movie to watch. I need to know what you've been watching lately.
Well, as of recent, we just started watching the show. It's on Netflix. It's an AMC show. It's called Kevin Can F Himself. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this show or seen anything. I love it. We just finished the first season. There's 2 seasons out. It's the girl from Schitt's Creek. I don't know her name, but she's the main character, and it's great. It actually takes place in Worcester. I had no idea until I started watching the show.
Did they actually film there?
It looks like it, but
That's
there's
cool.
nothing specific. But it very much so looks like it's it looks like Worcester when you watch. But the show is very cool and very smartly done, where half the show is early 2000s sitcom style, as if you're watching The King of Queens, where the camera is in the fourth wall and everything's funny, everything's lighthearted, but the camera's always far back. And that's with like her husband, and her husband is very King of Queens style, like Kevin James, like funny, goofy, idiot, up to schemes, doing things like that. And then when he leaves the room and it's just her in the room, like there's other characters too. So, and then, but when like she's just in the room, it switches to like a modern day, like thriller drama where the camera angles are like up close right here, like on the face, and like the colors change. And so then it becomes like serious and dark. And then whenever like he's in the room, or like his dad or his best friend, it's like the funny sitcom style, like blown up back. And so like the show progresses back and forth, but it's very cool, very bear like, where like they use a lot of like cool angles and colors. And so from like a cinematography style like endpoint, like it's very cool to watch, and like the plot is good too. And so I like, that's what like really draws you in, is like the changes from sitcom to drama thrillers, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and like how the show unfolds. And very entertaining. And that's what I've been watching as of recent.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm gonna have to go watch a trailer or something on that.
Yeah, you sold me too.
I'd never heard of it, and it came up. My girlfriend brought it up, and she's like, "I heard about this show," and I was like, "All right." So we watched the trailer, and I was like, "Sold. Let's try it."
I mean, yeah, me sold on it being Worcester.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was another thing. Like I had no idea. We didn't know it was gonna be Worcester, and then so they're like big Patriots fans, like big Boston fans, big all that, and like they have the accents, and it's very cool. So it's called Kevin Can F Himself, but it's
okay. All right. Well, I'll definitely look that up. But Rio, we appreciate all the time you're giving us. We appreciate you coming on for a second time. That's much appreciated. But we definitely look forward to seeing wherever the off season takes you, and wherever you head in 2025. But thank you so much for hopping on.
Andrew, Ed, thank you very much.